Chapter 15 of Abbotsford and Newstead Abbey by Washington Irving. This Librivox Recording is in the public domain. Recording by Greg Giordano. Newstead Abbey, the Lake. Before the mansion lay a lucid lake, broad as transparent, deep and freshly fed by a river, which its softened way did take, in currents through the calmer water spread. Around the wildfowl nestled in the brake, and sedges, brooding in their liquid bed. The woods sloped downward to its brink, and stood, with their green faces fixed upon the flood. Such is Lord Byron's description of one of a series of beautiful sheets of water, formed in old times by the monks by damming up the course of a small river. Here he used daily to enjoy his favourite recreations in swimming and sailing. The wicked old lord, in his scheme of rural devastation, had cut down all the woods that once fringed the lake. Lord Byron, on coming of age, endeavoured to restore them, and a beautiful young wood planted by him now sweeps up from the water's edge, and clothes the hillside opposite to the Abbey. To this woody nook Colonel Wildman has given the appropriate title of the Poet's Corner. The lake has inherited its share of the traditions and fables connected with everything in and about the Abbey. It was a petty Mediterranean sea on which the wicked old lord used to gratify his nautical tastes and humours. He had his mimic castles and fortresses along its shores, and his mimic fleets upon its waters, and used to get up mimic sea fights. The remains of his petty fortifications still awaken the curious inquiries of visitors. In one of his vagaries he caused a large vessel to be brought on wheels from the sea-coast, and launched in the lake. The country people were surprised to see a ship thus sailing over dry land. They called to mind a saying of Mother Shipton, the famous prophet of the vulgar, that whenever a ship freighted with ling should cross Sherwood Forest, Newstead would pass out of the Byron family. The country people, who detested the old lord, were anxious to verify the prophecy. Ling, in the dialect of Nottingham, is the name for heather. With this plant they heaped the fated bark as it passed, so that it arrived full freighted at Newstead. The most important stories about the lake, however, relate to the treasures that are supposed to lie buried in its bosom. These may have taken their origin in a fact which actually occurred. There was one time fished up from the deep part of the lake a great eagle of molten brass, with expanded wings, standing on a pedestal or perch of the same metal. It had doubtless served as a stand or reading desk in the Abbey chapel, to hold a folio Bible or missal. The sacred relic was sent to a brazier to be cleaned. As he was at work upon it, he discovered that the pedestal was hollow and composed of several pieces. Unscrewing these, he drew forth a number of parchment deeds and grants appertaining to the Abbey, and bearing the seals of Edward III. and Henry VIII., which had thus been concealed and ultimately sunk in the lake by the friars, to substantiate their right and title to these domains at some future day. One of the parchment scrolls thus discovered throws rather an awkward light upon the kind of life led by the friars of Newstead. It is an indulgence granted to them for a certain number of months, in which plenary pardon is assured in advance for all kinds of crimes, among which several of the most gross and sensual are specifically mentioned, and the weakness of the flesh to which they are prone. After inspecting these testimonials of monkish life in the regions of Sherwood Forest, we cease to wonder at the virtuous indignation of Robin Hood and his outlaw crew at the sleek sensualists of the cloister. I never hurt the husbandmen that used to till the ground, nor spill their blood that ranged the wood, to follow hawk and hound. My chiefest spite to clergy is, who in these days bear sway, with friars and monks with their fine spunks, I make my chiefest prey. Old Ballad of Robin Hood. The Brazen Eagle has been transferred to the parochial and collegiate church of Southall, about 20 miles from Newstead, where it may still be seen in the centre of the chancel, supporting, as of yore, a ponderous Bible. As to the documents it contained, they are carefully treasured up by Colonel Wildman, among his other deeds and papers, in an iron chest secured by a patent lock of 9 bolts, almost equal to a magic spell. The fishing up of this brazen relic, as I have already hinted, has given rise to the tales of treasure lying at the bottom of the lake, thrown in there by the monks when they abandoned the abbey. The favourite story is, that there is a great iron chest there filled with gold and jewels, and chalices, and crucifixes. Nay, that it has been seen, when the water of the lake was unusually low, there were large iron rings at each end, but all attempts to move it were ineffectual. Either the gold it contained was too ponderous, or what is more probable, it was secured by one of those magic spells usually laid upon hidden treasure. It remains, therefore, at the bottom of the lake to this day, and it is to be hoped may one day or other be discovered by the present worthy proprietor. End of chapter 15. Recording by Greg Giordano, Newport Richey, Florida.